just wanted to share a few things I've learned, or a few lessons I've learned about forgiveness. And that's not to say I'm an expert on this issue, or that I find forgiving others easy. It can be quite hard to forgive others, and it also depends on the severity of the situation. There are some things which I would class as quite minor that are not so hard to forgive someone for. For instance, I'm married. If my wife does something to me that I don't like, I mean, if it's a small or minor thing, then it's actually not that hard for me to find it within me to forgive her. But there are, there are different situations that come up in life, and it can be situations that happen between me and let's say my parents. And I've spoken about my parents quite a lot in my videos, and I got to the stage where I had to disown myself from my own family and cut ties with my parents, because I had reached my limit with them, especially my dad, because he was very abusive to me, both as a child and as an adult. Even after being married, I was still being abused with my wife. So, but I hope I can remember, since I'm not doing this with a script. I'm not doing this from a script. I hope I can remember to tell you about some things that I've also learned or heard of recently about what has happened to other people. Really, major issues that they've had, let's say, with their parents or other relatives. So, yeah. So before I talk about these lessons I've learned, I just wanted to emphasize the point that, or the fact that God does say we need to forgive others, regardless of how much it has hurt us. And Jesus actually said that if we don't forgive others, then our Heavenly Father will not forgive us, because we have to remember that we have done more. Just when I say we, I'm talking about every human being on this earth, past and present, has done a lot to hurt God, and we have hurt God more than others have hurt us. And I'm not trying to excuse the things that have been done to those of us who are watching this video, that have been done to hurt us. I'm not saying that a person hurting another person is okay. I'm not saying that, because I actually hate that, and a lot of hurt that's caused towards others is done because there's someone within that equation, if I can call it that, who's trying to be a bully, who's trying to I actually addressed the issue of dominance in one of my videos. I think it was early on, when I started making videos. I said that what causes conflict, most of the time, what causes conflict between different people is that one person in that relationship is trying to dominate another person, or is trying to dominate others. I've come across this issue of dominance quite a lot, whether it be at work, or even in WhatsApp groups. I was invited to join a WhatsApp group here in Zimbabwe, and I was told that it was a Christian WhatsApp group. Excuse me. Mostly made up of white Zimbabweans. I think I was the only black person on there, and I found that there was the issue. It happened about 2 or 3 times, and eventually I explained that I had to leave the group, because I couldn't be in a group where other members were trying to dominate me. And also bearing in mind that I had my own problems at that time. I was still having issues with my parents. This before I totally cut ties with them. I also have my own problems. I didn't see the point of being in a so-called Christian group where other people were trying to dominate me, and I think some of it was to do with the fact that I'm a black person. They thought that they were better than me, but yeah. So maybe if I just get into some of these lessons that I've learned, is maybe the first one I can share is, depending on how much you've been hurt, it can take you a long time to forgive someone or to forgive others. If you've been deeply hurt, this varies from person to person. I mean, forgiveness can be, someone can hurt you really badly, and you can be able to forgive them in one day, and for someone else maybe it can take years, and some of us will go to our graves without forgiving others. So I'm not saying that because God says we should forgive others, that forgiveness can come overnight. It can take a long time, because they say that time is a great healer. So the more you heal, the more you have the ability to forgive others. So I'd say that's the first lesson. It can, depending on how much you've been hurt. And some of us are more thick-skinned than others. Everyone's different, I'm not saying, and I'm not even saying that the things that I'm sharing in this video apply to everyone. That's what I'm trying to explain, that, for instance, the same thing can be done to me that can be done to you, but you can forgive that person more easily than I can. And yeah, so someone can take a short time to forgive someone, having been hurt the same as someone else who then takes 2 years to forgive someone, because we're all different. So time is a great issue when it comes to forgiveness. Yeah. So one of the ladies that was on that same Christian group that I spoke of, on that Christian WhatsApp group that I spoke of, she's actually one of the ones who was being just trying to dominate me on that group. This same lady I'm talking about, was actually raped. Someone entered her house. She's kind of like an elderly white Zimbabwean. There's someone who entered her house and raped her, basically. And but the offender was drunk, so he fell asleep. And I don't even know if he actually finished the act, but regardless, he fell asleep, and the victim in that case actually managed to go to a neighbor's and report the crime, and then the police were called, and they turned up very quickly and arrested the offender. And within 2 weeks of the crime occurring, he was sentenced to 18 years in prison. And when I was still on speaking terms with this person, with the victim of that crime, and in our conversation, she told me that she had actually forgiven that person. So I hope that's a good illustration or good example of showing how someone can have something really, really bad done to them, and they can find it within themselves to forgive someone who's done something really bad to them. But someone else who's had less done to them, or been hurt less than the example that I've given, can maybe not even have the ability to forgive the person who has offended them. So forgiveness is quite, it's not how can I say, like a black and white issue. It's we are commanded to forgive. I already said that, but it depends or varies from person to person, the actual ability to forgive that person within a short space of time. And there isn't, in the Holy Scriptures, we're not told that if someone offends you, you need to forgive them that same day. We're just told to forgive, but there's no time period that's mentioned. So maybe I've covered the issue of forgiveness and time enough. Maybe I should move on to the next lesson that I've learned. So the other thing I've learned about forgiveness is forgiveness. Whereas in the past, when I was growing up and even as an adult, I used to think that forgiveness was about the person who has offended you, that you need to forgive them. And it turns out that actually forgiveness is, yes, you have to forgive the person that's offended you, but actually I've learned that forgiveness is actually about the victim. Let's call it that. The victim, the one who's been offended. It's actually more about them, because it's about releasing that perhaps the hatred, the grudge, the offense that you're holding against the other person for what they've said or done to you. For instance, with me, it was both physical hurt. I was caused a lot of hurt physically, because my dad abused me and my mom was there. Never lifted a finger to stop the abuse, except for I think on one occasion where I remember she threatened to call the police because my dad was when my dad was beating me and my younger brother, I think. But everything else that was done to me, both as a child and as an adult, my mom was actually there as an enabler, especially as an adult. She's been very supportive of my dad, even though it was very clear that my dad was in the wrong. This what I'm going to say now is kind of like just a side note of something else that I've learned recently. This is through watching YouTube videos. I've learned that because I'm not really someone who's into African culture. I've actually made a video saying I don't believe in, giving my reasons for not believing in African culture. I mean, for those who want to go and watch that video, the title of the video is why I don't believe in African culture, and 100% don't believe in African culture. But I was just going to say something else I've learned, which has helped to explain why when my dad or my parents were abusive to me, that other relatives supported them. I've learned recently that in African culture, parents can't actually do anything wrong. They're deemed to be always right, regardless of what they've done. So I was just so I don't get lost in all this. I was saying earlier that I've learned that forgiveness, for instance, with me and my parents, I've learned that everything that my parents did to me, which offended me or hurt me, and I've said already, both physically and psychologically, I was hurt. That the forgiveness in my case is about it's about me. It's about letting go and not planning revenge. This is something else I've learned, which I've maybe moved on to as a third lesson that I've learned about forgiveness is when you see yourself planning revenge against someone who has hurt you, it means you haven't forgiven that person. But yeah, so I was saying it's forgiveness is about me in my case with my parents, with everything that they did to me. It's about me. It's about me releasing the feelings of perhaps being hateful or holding a grudge or holding on to the fact that I've been offended. It's because it's actually about my physical and mental well-being. That if I hold on to hatred or if I hold a grudge towards anyone who has offended me, it's actually not good for my health. And but the really, really big lesson that I also learned as well is that actually walking away from abusive relationships is actually part of not just part of the healing process. Yes, it's part of the healing process, but it's actually part of forgiveness. Walking away is actually part of it helps you to forgive others, because what tends to happen is that if you are in a relationship with abusive people, whether it be relatives or friends or whatever, even work colleagues, excuse me, if you continue to associate yourself with abusive people, you maybe forgive them, and then they'll do something else to you that will cause you to be offended again. So actually walking away from abusive relationships actually helps with the process of forgiving others. And one thing I noticed is that when I totally cut ties with my parents, and I'm talking about 100% cutting ties, actually disowning myself from the family, straight away I noticed a difference in my sleep patterns. I started sleeping very well. Even last night, today being the Sabbath, and today is the 24th of January 2026. Last night I slept so well, and when I woke up this morning, I went to the loo and I went back to bed, and when I went back to bed, I fell asleep again. I actually woke up a bit later than I normally do. I was actually surprised, but yeah, for the past 3 or 4 months, I've been sleeping very well, and this is after I'd already made the decision by then to cut ties with my parents, but I've noticed a difference, a massive difference in my ability to sleep well. So I did a video as well recently where I spoke about the 3 the three most important things when it comes to your well-being are having the ability to sleep well at night, having inner peace, and also living in peace with your own family. And sorry, I forget the third thing, but maybe I'll come back to it. But your mental well-being, your mental health. You need to look after your mental health, because when you can't forgive others, those three things are affected: your sleep, your mental health, and your inner peace, and your ability to live in peace with others. Those three things are affected. So if you're having difficulty forgiving others, try actually cutting ties, or maybe separating yourself from those who are causing you hurt for a while. If you still think that having a relationship with those who are causing you hurt is actually worth hanging on to. Whereas with me, I'd given my parents had lots of chances, especially my dad. I gave my dad lots of chances. There are times when he offended me in the past, and I continued to seek to have a relationship with him. And even after the issue that happened in early 2019, I think it was in February 2019, where first of all, my dad said I should take my, he actually said to my face, you should have taken your effing wife to Harare, after I passed through Zambia, through Lusaka in Zambia, to visit him with my family. And then he sent me a text message afterwards telling me to go to hell. Even after all this abuse, I actually continued to try and have a relationship with both my dad and my mom. My mom at this point was supporting my dad, telling me to be quiet, and saying that the commandment to honor your parents is unconditional, and saying that I should admit guilt even though I was the one who had been offended. So I continued to try and talk to my parents, and I even asked one of my aunts to mediate between us. But there came a point when I actually met my dad. This was in October 2023. I saw my dad in Harare, and we actually had a meeting. They were the same aunt who had asked to mediate, and a cousin of mine. And in that meeting, my dad actually never apologized, and he never took accountability for his actions, both for things that he did to me when I was growing up, in terms of abusing me and my siblings and my mom, but also abusing me and my wife after I got married. He never took accountability, and actually tried to spin things around to make counter allegations and stuff like that. But I also put across my points, and I think he understood my points very well, because there was a kind of slight change in behavior in terms of how he interacted with me. But I noticed that he was still doing the same things to my siblings, bearing in mind that I'm the firstborn. But when I realized that the conversations between me and my dad were revolved around money, and I'm not saying that I was talking about money. It was my dad who was always talking about finances. He was always talking about how he was always complaining about how expensive things are, whether it's meds for one of my brothers who's staying with him at the moment in Zambia, or my brother's permits, because my brother's a Zimbabwean, but my parents are in Zambia right now. They bought a farm in Zambia. He was always complaining about the expense of how expensive food is, and how expensive electricity is, and how expensive just life costs are. The things that we need to survive or to live. How expensive things are. And then when I confronted him about that, I said, "You're always talking about money. So are you expecting money from me?" Bearing in mind that he told me and my wife to go to hell. There's no way I'm going to give him or my mom any financial assistance, because my thing is, I live on principle. Okay, I don't live on opinions or people's opinions. I live on. I base my life on certain principles, and especially biblical principles. I don't believe in rewarding bad behavior with money. So when I asked my dad if he was expecting money from me, he denied it, and then said that. I mean, later on, he said that that's how he talks to everyone. He complains to everyone, but I don't believe that. I believe, because the issue of finances and demanding demanding money from me, that had actually happened on many occasions, even before we fell out. But when I actually confronted my dad about this thing of him constantly talking about money, and me questioning whether he was expecting money from me, he actually started raising his voice at me on the phone. We were communicating on WhatsApp initially, but afterwards we communicated by text because there was the network was bad that day. But I mean, he started raising his voice at me again. That's when I made the final decision to completely walk away from my parents, because I just realized that there was no change. So yeah, so just, I mean, partly in case anyone's wondering why I decided to disown myself from my own family and to cut ties with my parents. Yeah, because everyone has a limit. With me, I was very lenient, and I tolerated a lot of bad behavior from not just from my parents, but from siblings and from other relatives. But so why I'm saying all this is, you have to draw the line somewhere. I think that's what I'm trying to say. You have to draw the line somewhere. Don't allow yourself to be abused by someone just because it's your mom or your dad. You also have the option of walking away as well, because it's about those three things that I mentioned. It's about your peace, your inner peace, your ability to sleep well at night, and looking after your mental health. And if you don't look after, especially your ability to sleep at night, it will affect your mental health. When it affects your mental health, and obviously everything starts going downhill, because you then start, taking meds, to help you sleep, and sometimes you can actually become like like the person who has actually offended you. If you don't address those three things that I mentioned, you're going to become like the person who's actually abusing you. So yeah, I think I've mentioned about 3 or 4 lessons that I've learned. Let me just tell you about. I said I was going to give you some examples of things that I've come across recently. It is mainly from YouTube videos. There was this Zimbabwean couple that were working in South Africa. And for those maybe who don't know, maybe who are watching this from Europe, there are lots of Zimbabweans in South Africa, just like the Zimbabweans in Britain, especially in Birmingham and London. Zimbabweans are everywhere, including in America and Australia. But this married couple were actually working in South Africa. They decided to buy a plot. When I say plot, just in case that's not really a term that's used in other countries, a plot is a piece of land. So they wanted to buy a piece of land so they could build a house, and they made contact with the parents of the wife, and the dad. The parents of the wife, basically, let's put it that way. Let me put it that way. The parents of the wife said that they had found a piece of land, a plot, for this couple in South Africa to build a house, and the piece of land was bought by this couple, and then they started building. But when this couple in South Africa started asking for documentation, especially the husband started asking for, let's say, deeds or other documentation for the plot, the parents of the wife's parents, basically, we're not forthcoming with the paperwork for the piece of land. But this couple in South Africa continued to build. They were being given all sorts of excuses as to why there was no paperwork. And then eventually they started hearing from the siblings of the wife, this couple in South Africa. She started hearing from her siblings that her parents were going around telling relatives that they actually owned, that the house was theirs. The house that was being built belonged to the parents of this woman in South Africa. And then when they questioned the parents denied it and said, no, well, we are saying that the house is ours, but we're only saying that just to basically cover you in case there might be relatives who are jealous or neighbors who are jealous and things like that. And then eventually it came out that these parents to this woman in South Africa actually had taken over that house, and they'd actually moved in and had taken over the house. And then when they were asked to move by this couple that built the house, it basically caused a lot of friction. They didn't want to move out, and they actually started saying that the house belonged to them. And eventually, this so there's just something else as well that I've learned. It's not so much to do with forgiveness, but something else that I've learned that a lot of Africans do is that they this may vary from country to country here in the continent of Africa, but it's said that in Zimbabwe, you're not supposed to confront your parents directly if they've done something to you that you deem to be wrong. So this couple went through some other relatives, uncles and aunts, and then there was a meeting, and in the meeting it was said that this couple from South Africa should apologize to the parents who'd actually taken their house from them unlawfully, and basically they apologized, and because it was said that the parents of this woman in South Africa had to be made to feel like they were victims, even though they were not victims. But yeah, so just in case someone has lost me and you're a bit confused, I'm saying the couple from South Africa who bought a piece of land and built their house, the house which was taken by the parents of this woman from South Africa, they actually had to apologize to the parents of the wife who had actually taken their house from them. And they, just in case someone is thinking about the police, yeah, they went to the police, but it looks like nothing really came out of, the police didn't really help. But so something else as well that happened is that this woman from South Africa actually ended up breaking up with the husband. Separating, not completely divorcing, but separating, and then the husband took a second wife. It looks like they are still kind of, pretending to be still together for the sake of the children. But the fact is the husband has taken a second wife because he blames his first wife for everything that happened with this house being taken from them. So, and the other thing as well is that this woman from South Africa, she's still seeking to have a relationship with her parents. So this is one of the things I wanted to mention, that I don't think that's very good. Everyone needs to also draw the line somewhere. You need to have the ability to draw the line and to say this far and no further. Otherwise, for me personally, I think that's actually slavery. Slavery for me is actually anything that's done to me against my will or against my conscience. So I'm not willing to go that far. Okay, even words alone, I can break up. I can cut off ties with someone because of words. But this couple from South Africa actually had a house taken from them by the parents of this woman, and then to continue seeking to have a relationship. I don't think that's very good. So, and by the way, this is just an example, but apparently there's a lot of there are lots of cases like that are happening where parents will take over houses that belong to their children, because most of the children are actually in the diaspora working, whether it be in the UK or the States, and then they send money to their parents back in Zimbabwe to build houses for them, and then the parents end up taking over the houses and moving in and refusing to leave. There's another case, by the way, which similar case, but eventually the parents moved out of that house, but they were actually trying to take over the house from their son, who had built a house with his wife, and even went on YouTube and told their story through a third party, saying that their son had evicted them from their home, which is not true. The son had actually built that house with his wife, and the parents wanted to take over that house. So apparently there's a lot of that going on. So this is what. So remember at the beginning I said that there how can I put this? There are different levels of there are different cases. There are different things that come up that cause someone to be hurt, and some of them can be quite serious. And I think having your house taken from you after you've worked hard to build a house, and then having that taken from you, that's quite a big thing. And yes, someone could find that if that's been done to them, they could find that it's very difficult for them to let go and to forgive someone. So it's not there is this expression that has come come about, which is actually not biblical. You know, the expression where they say, or the statement where they say, forgive and forget. Yeah, where they say forgive and forget. There's actually no such verse in the Holy Scriptures. So it's easy for someone who has not been hurt, who is not involved. It's easy for someone to say forgive and forget, which is not even biblical. But I think as for those of us who claim to be Christians, we also need to be compassionate and sympathetic to those who have been hurt, and to not take sides with those who are causing the hurt. Remember, there's actually a verse in Proverbs 17:15 which says, "He who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the just, both are an abomination unto the Lord." So we should not be supporting someone who can clearly see is in the wrong. And sometimes it's about position. You know, it's about hierarchy. There's seems to be a very there's a hierarchical system here in African culture where, like I already said earlier, that if the parents do something to their children or to a child, they're deemed to not have done anything wrong. It's like they can't do anything wrong, and it's actually the children who have been offended are sometimes seen to be the ones that have done wrong, when it's actually not true. So God calls that an abomination. We're not supposed to support things that are wrong. Yeah, perhaps I should finish with this one last thing that, for me personally, I believe that the ability to forgive others actually comes from God. That for you know, for those who are watching, if you've been hurt, you know, like I have, and it's not necessarily that you've had the same things done to you, but you know, if you've been hurt in any way and you're finding it difficult to forgive others, ask God to give you the ability to forgive others, because at the end of the day, it's about you. It's about your well-being and you actually living, you know, happily, not having negative thoughts going through your head every day because of something that someone said to you, or something that someone did. And I want to be happy here on this earth. I know that life on this earth is not perfect, and Jesus said he came here to give us a more abundant life, and we're supposed to enjoy life here on this earth and also enjoy life even more in heaven. But if you want to enjoy life here, you have to have inner peace, an ability to sleep well, and to also have good mental health. So yeah, it's forgiveness is about you, and if it means that you need to cut ties in order to actually live happily and be at peace with yourself, then you need to do so. Something else I wanted to mention is that, and I have mentioned this in some of my other videos, is that there's no relationship that's so important that you need to. Yeah. So my advice, and some of you maybe reject this advice, but I found this to be true in my own experience, that there's no relationship that's so important that you need to hang on to it, even if it's causing you, even if you're being abused and it's causing you hurt. For me, the thing to do now with what I've experienced is it's best to let go of that relationship. And there are many relatives I don't speak to, or even one of my siblings I don't speak to, because he because those that I don't speak to, some of them were actually supporting my parents when they were abusing me, or supporting my dad when he was being verbally abusive to me and my wife. So I don't believe there's any reason for me to have a relationship with someone who supports abusive behavior. Remember what Proverbs 17 verse 15 says, which I've already quoted earlier. So yeah, even what's deemed to be the most important relationship is that between yourself and your parents. For those whose parents are still alive, that's probably deemed to be the most important relationship. Even that one, I would say you need to let go of that relationship if your parents are being abusive to you, because there are many cases of and this is still obviously there's a connection between suicide and forgiveness. There are many cases of people who have committed suicide because they've been hurt so much, and I think part of that is because they've continued to try and have a relationship with those that have abused them. So sometimes it's best to just walk away. You find that actually walking away actually frees you and allows you to live your life more freely. But yeah, those are the things that I've learned. I think I've mentioned about 3 or 4 or 5 lessons that I've learned about forgiveness. I may have forgotten to mention some other things maybe that I've learned, but I think that will suffice for now. I don't know if maybe that will be helpful to someone, because I think all of us have gone through some kind of trauma. I don't think there's anyone, especially anyone who's in their adult years, who has gone through life without experiencing any kind of trauma. All of us have got some kind of trauma. It comes in different forms, and having an ability to forgive and move on and enjoy our lives is very important, because the only other option is being miserable and potentially having depression and committing suicide, which is not really a good option. So yeah, thanks for watching the video, and God bless.